Hi, history hikers here. We are at Coustaussa, the castle of Coustaussa.
Or Coustaussa.
Coustaussa, not really sure. Behind us are the ruins of a castle which we're not sure we're able to visit. We'll see. Looks like it's been remodeled through the ages with the big windows from this side. But we'll see. What do you expect?
Well, I don't know what to expect. We don't even know if we can visit it, but I'm rather excited.
Let's go check it out. Hello and welcome to a special video set among the ruins of the castle of Coustaussa. Yes, Coustaussa and not Coustaussa. Sorry about my past pronunciation. Anyway, when we arrived, we were greeted by the current owner slash caretaker of the castle, and he gave us a private guided tour. Amazing! In this video, we'll try to give you all the information we got about the castle with some history intertwined. We'll start with the location. The castle is situated in the Aude department in southern France. Like most castles in the area, it's perched on top of a hilltop, commandeering the surrounding landscape.
Right now we're entering the lower courtyard. It's some 400 to 500 square meters large. The future plans for the courtyard are to clear the brush and provide a space for events or gatherings. The idea is to create a green theater with benches to allow seating and give people a place to relax.
Over here we have the entrance to the attic and cellar buildings, which are both collapsed. The entrance itself is also in danger of collapsing. In its current state, the vegetation is helping to hold up the stones of the arch, but with it burrowing away into the brickwork, the stones are also starting to get loosened over time. With the help of an architect, they will be reinforcing the structure this year to stabilize it and keep it from collapsing. It would allow visitors to access the upper courtyard as well.
Next up on the right is what remains of the southern gate, which would have allowed access to the castle from below the hill. There would have been a ramp lined with stones, but that's no longer visible. This gate was very much a secondary entrance and would never have supported a lot of traffic. Getting materials or animals up here wouldn't really have been viable. It was probably more of a staircase made so that people could enter and exit via a different route. A little lower on the hill you can see the old Pigeon Coop. Unfortunately, they do not own that plot of land, so there are no future plans yet, besides hopefully purchasing it and adding it to the restoration plans.
Right now, we're on another courtyard, some 850 square meters large. Somewhere below here is supposed to be a small basement, probably containing a kitchen, but the entrance to it hasn't been found. Next, we turn our attention to the towers, which were built after the 13th century. The tower here is mirrored on the other side, and there's also a tower at the eastern end of the castle. Unfortunately, we're not able to view that last tower because of the instability of the structure.
We now come to this part of the castle wall which shows clear signs of deliberate demolition. After the castle fell in disrepair in the 17th and 18th centuries, people would begin pillaging stones for other construction projects. You can clearly see that a row of lower stones were removed from the wall, which would normally make the wall topple over towards where we're standing. People would then be able to choose the stones they wanted to use elsewhere. It was only in 1948, when the castle was listed as a national monument, that the dismantling ended. Our host goes on to say that his great-grandfather owned the eastern tower, which had only partially collapsed, but the hillside below was solid. Unfortunately, in the 90s it collapsed completely because of a landslide. The beautiful vaulting on the first floor inside the tower has now all but been destroyed. Hopefully next year, when the critical reinforcement works are finished, you will be able to see these vaulted remains. In the back corner, not clearly visible, is the backside of the platform of the watch turret, called échauguette in French. It watched over the northern approach of the castle. There is also a rounded Romanesque window that you may or may not be able to see because of this camera angle. This might have been the old chapel built during the construction of the castle in the 12th century.
We now make our way to the eastern end of the castle, as far as we can safely go. The castle has been continuously remodeled until the early 18th century. In the late 16th century, the large windows on the side of the parking lot were built. That is the northern side of the castle, which makes it seem an unusual location for windows, because there's no direct sunlight. However, it is because of the sun that the windows were built in the north. It can get very hot here during the afternoon, so it was to keep out the heat that the windows were purposely built in the north. From this viewpoint, you can still make out some windows, the smaller window on top and the big windows on the lower floors. Our host now gives us information about another chapel, which we were unfortunately unable to visit. It was built in 1722, and the pretext of its construction was that the grandmother living in the castle was no longer able to visit church in the town because of 9 months of bad weather in Coustaussa. Whether that's all true is not clear, but we do know that the chapel was constructed in that year. Later, the chapel was reused as a pigeon coop, which is evidenced by the holes in the walls inside, where the pigeons would rest. Right now, only 3 walls remain of this chapel.
Next we get some information about the beautiful stonework on the corners of the wall and tower. This has been redone in the 16th century. The visit of the castle itself ends at this corner here, because the stones that you can see laying on the ground are from the latrine, which is partially collapsed and very unstable right now. Reinforcing it is a high priority so that the visit can extend further.
Also visible here is this large buttress built around the turn of the 16th to 17th century, because the tower was starting to lean over to this side. Should we be able to visit the upper courtyard, we would have been able to see it clearly leaning over and being supported by this buttress.
Now on to the last part of the castle grounds, a plateau of some 100 meters long and 10 meters wide. It's one of the last parts to have been purchased and added to the castle side. Though up until the 18th century it would have been very much an integral part of the castle grounds.
In the 19th century, the castle was bought by a merchant who stripped it to be used as building materials elsewhere. For example, the roof was removed and its woodwork was repurposed to repair a windmill near Coustaussa. He sold the castle in smaller plots. The person who bought such a plot essentially bought the stones on that plot. This piece of castle could then be dismantled and reused in other buildings. As we mentioned earlier, one of these plots came to be in the possession of his great-grandfather. More specifically, the Eastern Tower. His great-grandfather never used his lot as bricks. His father, from the 1980s onwards, would then, one by one, buy up the other lots to piece together the castle again. This latest purchase dates from 2018. Me, being interested in buying my own beautiful castle room one day, of course asked how much a lot of the castle costs. The answer was, pas grand chose, so nothing big. So hopefully I can one day also own my own castle.
One of the latest additions to the castle was this plateau we're heading to right now. It's an artificial plateau, completely supported by walls on all sides. It's not really clear why the platform was constructed originally.
Here we see the remains of a small building labeled on the archaeological documents from the 19th century as Le Logis du Gardien, meaning the guardian's house. Whether it was a guardhouse or something else, nobody can say for sure. The archaeological study actually ends here, but the castle site continues on. As we walk along, we can see some signs of the small walls that would have surrounded the entire plateau.
In front of you, you might be able to work out the caban, which are little huts made of flat stones called loze. No mortar is used in their construction. Here is an example of such a caban from last year's vacation in the Dordogne.
The vegetation we see here only has been around for 50 or 60 years. The sides of the hill were always used as pastures. The restoration project entails the clearing of the brush here and envisions this area as a huge orientation table with fun and recreational ways to discover the region and its history.
At the end of the plateau we have an amazing view of the surrounding landscape. This might be a good time to finally provide some information about the castle's history. The site has been a reinforced location even during the time of the Gauls and the Visigoths. The name Coustaussa was first mentioned in the 8th century. Raymond Troncavel, Lord of Carcassonne, gave order to the construction of a castle here in 1157. He tasked his vassal, Pierre de Villars, with overseeing the defense of the valley of the river Sals. Pierre would become the first lord of Coustaussa, and he and his successors would remodel Coustaussa throughout the ages.
In 1210, during the Albigensian Crusade, the crusading army passed through but found the castle deserted. The defenders had fled after hearing the fall of the castle of Terme, not too far from here. In 1211, the villagers of Coustaussa rose up in rebellion but were quickly defeated. The castle was destroyed, the garrison killed, and the villagers were expelled. It would then later be rebuilt during French royal rule and was inhabited until the 17th, 18th century.
Here we are on the edge of the plateau. The rock face below, sadly not visible in the video, has evidence of quarrying. It could be this is where they got the stone used in the original 12th century construction. Important to remember that every castle had to get its stones from somewhere, and if possible, not too far away. It would have been very useful if it was only a couple of 100 meters away, like here. Over here, they also have plans to create a botanical garden to house local greenery and plants and trees that would have grown here originally. The idea is to create an ecosystem that will only need minimum of human intervention to keep thriving.
We now make our way back to the car and end our walk around Coustaussa. This was a special video for us and we're so glad to be able to go into such detail for once. Even though the castle might not look like much at the moment, or you might not be able to visit it completely at this time, it was such an incredible experience to get this guided tour. A big thanks goes out to our host. He's obviously passionate about castles, and of course the castle of Coustaussa in particular. And his vision of the future of the site has us excited to return each year to see what has changed. We don't know if that will be possible, but we will try and provide you with updates along the way. Be sure to check out the Instagram and Facebook pages of the Château de Coustaussa. We'll leave links in the description. Drop them a message and a like, and why not visit yourself if you're in the area. Thank you for watching. Let's go to the outro. We've just been on a personal guided tour by the owner, keeper of the grounds of Coustaussa Castle. And it's pretty cool that we had a private show around. It's in quite a dilapidated state right now. They're busy reinforcing things, but it looks like they have big plans and I can't wait to see them.
Yeah, they only started in March this year, and they hope next year it will be open for more visitors with a little bit of a gate and seating, and well, if the plans go according to plan, it will look quite amazing, I think.
Yeah, I think it's time for the arbitrary subjective castle score, and I'm gonna score it a 7.5. We didn't get to see everything because of the some places aren't secured yet, but the private show around was pretty cool. I like that part.
Yeah, I do agree with you. I think I would maybe go for a 7 rather than a 7.5, but for the same reasons. The private guided tour was really nice. It was a very friendly owner who seemed to be very interested in the history and the restoration of this project, so yeah, very nice.
We'll definitely have to come back another year and
to see what they've done,
how it advanced. You'll definitely get to see that when we do. For now, we're the History Hikers signing off. YouTube stuff?
Yeah, like, comment, subscribe and all that good YouTube stuff.
Good stuff. Bye.